Hello everybody, I am Jmulls of Jmulls Gaming, and Call of Duty Black Ops 6 is out. I've played the campaign, and it's actually good, so let's go over my final thoughts on the Call of Duty Black Ops 6 campaign. To be fair here though, it couldn't possibly get worse than last year with Modern Warfare 3. That campaign was a garbage fire, a dung heap, dookie, just straight butt. It was garbage. And coming off of that, this one is a breath of fresh air in so many ways. So let's start with, in my opinion, the worst element to the campaign, and that's just the overall story. And it wasn't even that bad or anything, just, to me, it didn't move much. It's another Call of Duty campaign where, oh, there's this big weapon they're gonna use on everybody, we have to stop it. The villain this go around is rather interesting, not one of my favorites, but I can appreciate what they did with them. And there are some rather cool moments to this game's story, primarily in the back end. In the first half, I found it to be rather slow, but in that second half, we got a lot of good development, and the pace was rather good. There's an entire mission where you essentially trip balls, and they take their time for backstory, but also to throw, like, zombies at you, and various boss fights. It's a standout mission, and in my opinion, marks a drastic turning point for this campaign, where the story goes from something that I could not care less about, to something that I'm actually rather interested in. And I think they did a really good job with the finale. It was well paced, there's a lot of variety here, and the final cliffhanger reveal was something that I think people could retroactively look back on and not like, depending upon where they take it from here, but I think right now it's rather interesting. But I don't want to get into spoilers too much, but let's get into the stuff that this campaign did so well. First of all, the music's incredible, yeah? All the music was fitting and was just a vibe, mission to mission. It felt good to listen to, and it hyped me up, and I actually paid attention to the music in this game. Felt like I was playing an older Call of Duty in that regard. And when it comes to the gameplay, this, in my opinion, is where this campaign really truly shines. The mission variety on display here with Black Ops 6 is second to none in the history of Call of Duty, in my opinion. Granted, I haven't played every campaign before, and I will, as a brief disclaimer, I have not played Cold War myself, but I've seen reviews of that campaign, so I know generally what happens in it. It's possible that impacted my opinion of the story overall for Black Ops 6 because this is a direct follow-up. The characters are, like, okay, and there's no character that I'm actively disliking. And there's a couple that I genuinely do kind of like. Wood's the standout, though he doesn't even do all that much. But yeah, I think that's the biggest weakness Black Ops 6 has, is just not having enough memorable characters. There's no character like Woods from the old Black Ops game, or like Victor Reznov, or like a Price, or like a Shepard or a Makarov. There's no character like that in Black Ops 6 for me, but there are still some rather nice moments. But back to the mission variety, oh my god, is it on another level. There's one mission in particular that's just an open world. They give you vehicles, you can find kill streaks around the map, and you get side activities you can accomplish if you choose to do so, just for completion or to find more money to spend on more upgrades and perks back at HQ, because this game does have that feature, which I think was there back in Black Ops Cold War. I like it. I think it's a good sense of progression that you get mission for mission as you return to your HQ in between major missions. You can upgrade perks, your weapons, and just your character overall by spending money on various upgrades, and you find this cash throughout various missions. So you are incentivized to explore and go off the beaten path. And there's also additional challenges for each mission you can do. One mission was like, hey, use 12 different weapons to kill enemies. And another one was like, using throwing knife for an assassination target. Just little objectives that you can keep your eye out for to gain nice little rewards. One of the biggest critiques Call of Duty campaigns have had for the longest time was that they were too linear and that they were just corridors of enemies to shoot, and it could get repetitive and uninteresting in that regard. I think with Black Ops 6, they find interesting ways to buck that idea, because no two missions feel alike in Black Ops 6. There's different gimmicks, different playstyles, and different ways to interface with the world. Some missions are more slow and methodical, where you feel like a spy on a black op. Others you go loud and proud, like waging an assault on Saddam Hussein's freaking palace to acquire information. Or you drive a tank through an airport. Or there's other missions where you're going to infiltrate a location, because they do bring up some rather famous locations from the history of Black Ops that I dare not spoil. And before you wage your full assault, you have the opportunity to say, hey, we need to disable these 3 installations in this location. Let's give the player multiple ways to overcome each of these objectives. There are some stealth sections that are forced, but they never drag out for too long, nor do they overstay their welcome, nor are they that actually abundant. And even those slower, more methodical sections, generally speaking, you can find ways to get through them rather quickly. Like that one section I was just talking about where there's 3 installations you have to sabotage. You could talk to various NPCs, go through different options, all in an effort to overcome those obstacles like that. Or you can just plant C4 on them and call it a GG. I like this design because it breeds replayability. If I ever decide to go back to play Black Ops 6's campaign because the gameplay is that good, for a lot of these missions, I have different ways to tackle them. And personally, I don't know if there are multiple endings. And I know Black Ops in particular is rather known for having player choice affect the actual story. Black Ops 2 did this, Cold War did this. I don't think Black Ops 6 has multiple endings, but the one ending we do get I think is rather interesting and does set up this story for the future. But good God, do they have fun with this campaign, and that's just a breath of fresh air to say. There are missions where they utilize the zombie stuff, but the way it's incorporated as essentially your character tripping balls is rather interesting because it gives you enemy variety. Like, think back on it. That's always been one of Call of Duty's biggest issues, especially if you marathon these campaigns back to back. A lot of the enemies just felt the same, and while they may have had different weapons, a lot of the time it boiled down to they had a machine gun, there's snipers, or there's ones that use RPGs on you. But in this campaign, they don't overuse enemies that have a lot of armor. Generally, those guys are treated like mini-bosses, and even then, there's certain ordnance you can find, like homing knives that blow up after you manually direct where they go in midair to shred their armor. Or there's guys that prioritize an RC cars, so they'll just constantly spam these things at you if you don't take care of them. There's guys that use riot shields, but then you have all the different enemies and zombies, and they even incorporate boss fights that are kind of good in these missions. Very simple mechanics, don't get me wrong, but they're spice of life. They add diversity, they add variance to the gameplay, and a welcome change of pace in my opinion. I love the equipment bag you get. Pretty much all of your grenade types, you can just grab them all, and they throw them into an inventory. So for me, I use mouse and keyboard, I just have to hold the button 3 down. It brings up a rotary wheel. I just select which equipment I want to have equipped at that moment in time, then I can just start spamming them if I want to. It's so nice. And it feels so good when a guy that is heavily armored is coming at me and I just use an RC car to blow him up in one hit. Or the guys that use riot shields, they can be super annoying, so I throw a throwing knife that blows up on contact and I landed right behind them, and then they swan dive into the distance off camera. It's hilarious. The missions never feel gimmicky for the sake of being gimmicky. They're varied, and in interesting and fun ways. Like that open world mission I was talking about before. Modern Warfare 3 tried these more like open world sections to add variety. The issue there was they just grabbed locations from Warzone, threw 3 objectives in there, and called it a GG. That just made the open world element feel stale and repetitive. But in here, it's relegated to one mission that's filled with side objectives and fun things you can collect to utilize against enemies, like defending a helicopter to protect a fallen down squad that got shot down, getting a missile kill streak that just constantly recharges for you, taking down various enemy bases or villages that have been overrun by the enemies. And I think for me, the most frustrating element to this campaign is just the gameplay itself is so varied and inspired that I feel disappointed in the story for not really feeling the same. The main enemy, the Pantheon, are just kind of whatever, the bleh. There's no moment that has me angry or just disappointed like in Modern Warfare 3 last year, and I would say the story is rather inoffensive in that regard, but there's no real memorable moment outside of those moments where you trip balls. the set pieces, the choreography, the gameplay, the mission variety, those are all stellar. But the story interwoven throughout all of that is just, my opinion, kind of forgettable. It's not the worst campaign they ever made. Far from it, I think. I would put it solidly mid. But I think where we're seeing a lot of praise for Black Ops 6 comes from the gameplay. The movement. I was not a believer in the movement for Black Ops 6. After playing it, I am. It feels good. I still feel like I'm playing Call of Duty, but I have a few tricks up my sleeve that never feel as if they're breaking the game or anything like that. I'm sure you will find some sweats online that'll make it seem as if it's game breaking, but when I'm playing it in the campaign, it felt like Call of Duty, but a refined Call of Duty. And if you're a fan of Call of Duty campaigns, I think you will highly enjoy Black Ops 6. I think in terms of gameplay, it's honestly one of their better ones. I'm including the old ones, because those older ones can suffer from a repetitive gameplay flow with little in the way of variety. The story, the set pieces, the action movie feel of it can make up for it there, but the gameplay can be rather repetitive. Here, that is not the case. Honestly, it's kind of the opposite. So yeah, I'm pleased that Call of Duty is actually kind of good now. At least for Black Ops 6. Treyarch cooked. I played a little bit of zombies, I only did one match. I liked it. I was never that big of a zombies guy personally, but it is round-based, and I enjoyed my brief, journey into zombies there. I played a little bit of multiplayer. It's Call of Duty multiplayer. Either you love it or you hate it. I'm just kind of burnt out on Call of Duty multiplayer at this point. But hey, I enjoyed the campaign. And with that, I'll call the video there for the day. Thank you all for tuning in. My pleasure for making the video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out and helps support future content, and I greatly appreciate it. Stay safe, have a great day, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye, everybody. Until we meet again.